How we doing, folks? Dave Brown here with the New Populist. Thank you for joining me again. Now, we are a few days in to this Israel-Iran conflict, and where it goes, I don't know. I do hope that it de-escalates, but if the past is any indicator, things will just get worse as Israel and Netanyahu keep ramping things up. He wants to completely neuter Iran, and usually Netanyahu, unfortunately, gets what he wants. He was in front of the U.S. Congress only months ago screaming about Iran and blaming Iran for trying to assassinate President Trump. So I said back then, this is not good. He keeps on talking about Iran. This is clearly his focus. He wants to go to war with Iran, and he usually gets what he wants. So here we are, Iran versus Israel, with Israel trying to drag in the United States. Now, in this video, I want to talk about the bigger issue here when it comes to why Israel is at war with all these countries around them. Now, they would say it is because of anti-Semitism, that these Arab countries are fanatic and they just hate Jews. Now, some of that is true. Actually, a lot of it is true. Many of them are fanatic, and yes, there are plenty of people in those countries who do in fact not like Jews. But is that the real issue here? Just anti-Semitism? And in my opinion, it is not. The real issue is the establishment of the State of Israel and how that caused all the violence that we see today. So in this video, I want to take a larger view of Israel and its creation and really zone in on the actual issue as to why Israel is at war with the countries around them. And to do this, you have to go back in time to when Israel was first created. We have some videos from Harry Truman where he talks about the establishment of the State of Israel and the problems that came with it. So here's what President Harry Truman said about the creation of Israel, and it's very important what he says.
But don't think that decision to recognize Israel is an easy one. I had to make a compromise with the Arabs and divide Palestine. The Jews wanted to chase all the Arabs into the Tigris and Euphrates River, and the Arabs wanted to chase all the Jews into the Red Sea. And what I was trying to do was to find a homeland for the Jews and still be just with the Arabs. But when you go into a thing of that kind, the people you help most are the ones that get most angry with you. Both of them were against me on the situation, but as President of the United States, I paid no attention to them, carried out what I thought was right, and I had the support of the Congress, and I could do it, which is unusual in these days.
Can you tell us specifically that a lot of Jewish people were against you too?
Oh, well, there were a lot of Jewish people against me because they wanted the whole of Palestine. As I say, they wanted to drive all the Arabs into the Tigris and Euphrates rivers.
So there's Truman saying that he had two sides, the Arab side and the Jewish side, and both sides wanted claim to all that land, but he did, in fact, choose to support the establishment of Israel, and he gave them some of the land, and that pissed off some of the Jews because, and he, as he says, they wanted all of the land. So this is the entire crux of the matter here. You have an area of land, and both sides had people who lived in it, and the United States helped in the creation of this country. And the problem, though, is that people live there. And as Truman says in this next video, you can't move all of them right away. You got to do it piece by piece. So here's what Truman says here.
We had several other people in the country, even among the Jews, the Zionists particularly, who were against anything that was to be done if they couldn't have the whole of Palestine and everything handed to them on a silver plate so they wouldn't have to do anything. It couldn't be done. We had to take it in small doses. You can't move 5 or 6 million people out of a country and fill it up with 5 or 6 million more and expect both sets of them to be pleased.
Well, neither set were pleased, but as he says, we can't do it overnight. We have to sort of chip away at it. And if you look at the settlements in the West Bank being chipped away, that's exactly what's happened. Very slowly, Israel expands and keeps pushing the Palestinians further and further away into a smaller area. And of course, we have Gaza, where we have, 2 million Gazans, and we have this war against Gaza, where we have tens of thousands of civilians killed, Israel blocking aid going into Gaza. And they would say it's because they're trying to root out Hamas. But if you look at it in the larger context, they want Gaza to be part of Israel. As Truman said, they wanted the entire thing from the river to the sea. And it's not just, again, the Jews, the Arabs did as well. So when you hear that comment or that line, from the river to the sea, both sides say that. Both sides say they want the entire land. So you often hear that river to the sea means the eradication of all the Jews, and it's this horrible anti-Semitic thing. Well, in fact, both sides have that idea that all that land belongs to them. So I don't take a side here as far as one side being right. They're both saying the same thing, and who has the right to that land? Well, that's what everything's about. They're fighting over it right now. Who has the right to that land? And for me, as an American, I say, cut the baby in half. Have a Palestinian state, have a Jewish state, and be done with it. The problem is, the party in power in Israel does not want a two-state solution, and neither do the backers in the United States. So Benjamin Netanyahu, he is part of the Likud party. And the Likud party charter back in 1977, it said that the area from the river to the sea belongs to the Jewish people. It says the right of the Jewish people is the land of Israel. So to the Likudists, there is no compromise. Now, there are people in Israel who do want a two-state solution, but they're a smaller group. And after October 7th, that group got even smaller. And Netanyahu, being a member of Likud, he capitalized on that to really ramp up the war against the Palestinians and really creating havoc in Gaza. Netanyahu, in my opinion, is on the extremist side, and that is part of the problem. And it turns out, and this has been reported, and this is the New York Times, that Netanyahu actually was propping up Hamas. And you say to yourself, why would a prime minister of Israel prop up what he calls a terrorist party? Well, the reason is because if you have a more moderate Palestinian Authority, there's increasing pressure from the international community to have a two-state solution. And Netanyahu, being part of the Likud party, does not want that. So he wants a radical Palestinian Authority in order to say to the international community, oh, see, guys, we can't do this because they're just too radical. So Netanyahu actually propped up Hamas. And that's why there are those conspiracies, I admit that October 7th may have not been a lapse in intelligence. Perhaps Netanyahu wanted that attack in order to wage this war on Gaza. Again, that's a conspiracy theory. I don't know whether or not that happened or was true. Ultimately, Netanyahu took advantage of it to bomb the crap out of Gaza and go after Hamas, and he's killed tens of thousands of civilians in the process. Now, So Netanyahu props up Hamas. And Netanyahu also has the choice of either A, like I said before, he won't do this, have a two-state solution, or B, go after all the Arab countries that support Hamas and the Palestinian people. So that is exactly what has happened. This takes us back to the clean break document that was put together chiefly by Richard Pearl, which said, instead of having peace or trying to negotiate a way to end to this conflict between the Arabs and the Jews in that region, we're going to do regime change instead. So think about that. They're so fanatical, Netanyahu, that instead of giving the Palestinians a state, they would rather attack all the Arab states around Israel that support the Palestinians. And since 1996, that is exactly what has happened. Iraq, Syria, which is now run by a former terrorist, Libya collapsed. It's a wreck now. And now, of course, we have the war with Iran. So Netanyahu is getting his wish of trying to get rid of all the countries who have leaders that are pro-Hamas or pro the Palestinian people and the pro two-state solution. Think about that. If we just had a two-state solution, we could just sort of end all this and move on. But the Likud, Netanyahu, will not allow this to happen. He would rather fight wars, and in some cases, have the United States fight these wars rather than have a two-state solution. Very, very radical. And most of the world does want a two-state solution. The UN has these votes, and the two countries that vote against it are Israel and the United States. The rest of the world, for the most part, is in favor of a two-state solution. So the latest vote, there were a handful of countries that were against it. Again, the most notably the United States and Israel. So who was holding up a two-state solution? It's us. And why are we doing it? Well, as I pointed out in other videos, we have a very, very strong Zionist lobby that does not want that two-state solution. And I've been talking about her, Miriam Adelson, giving Trump $100 million. And here's a little more information about her. She was actually born in Tel Aviv, speaks Hebrew, and she was an officer in the Israeli military. So think about that. One of Trump's biggest individual donors is a citizen of another country, lives there a lot of the time, was a member of their military, but she's donating money to the United States, the Republican Party, the Republican presidential nominee, in order to get him to support certain positions with Israel. Would we allow that with any other country? I made the other comparison in my last video. Could a American billionaire of Russian descent give Donald Trump $100 million to take positions that are pro-Russia? Trump would be impeached, removed from office, and they'll probably hang the guy if he did that. But Israel, we let it go. And not only that, we don't even talk about it. And if you do, you're called anti-Semitic. Now, another claim, too, was that Adelson donated this money because she wanted Trump to support Israel annexing the West Bank. She denies that. But, of course, she would. She wouldn't say it out loud. But according to this article, she is very much against a two-state solution, and she wants Israel to dominate the region, and that's why she gave this money to Donald Trump. And she's not the only one. There are a lot of very wealthy Zionists within the United States donating money to both parties in order for them to support Israel and to prevent a two-state solution. Now, to be clear, there are Jews in the United States who are in favor of a two-state solution. Unfortunately, they are a smaller group and don't have as much power and influence as the other group, which is against a two-state solution. So until that balances out, we are, it seems, going to continue to support Israel in whatever they do and this effort to destroy their enemies around them and prevent any two-state solution. That's the way it looks. And to be clear, again, do I like some of these Arab countries around Israel? No. I'm an American. I'm for freedom and democracy, whatever that means. I don't like extremism. And certainly a lot of these governments and the peoples inside them are pretty freaking extreme. But as an American, I just don't want to be involved. Let them, as Trump said in his speech in Saudi Arabia, organize their own country, do things their own way. Let's leave them alone. He said that, and then here we are, unfortunately, weeks later, supporting Israel in bombing Iran. And I'm a Trump supporter, but it is frustrating. I think Trump tries really hard to walk this narrow line where he's not fully in support of Israel, but at the same time, he doesn't get in their way because he has, again, all these donors that are pro-Israel, but he has the MAGA side, which doesn't want us to be involved. So he doesn't go all the way in. He tries to walk that line between the two groups. And unfortunately, just like with Ukraine, when you aren't clear and decisive in one direction, I think it's actually worse in the long run. So he would be better off just picking a side and going full bore instead of just trying to walk this line in between both groups in order to not piss anybody off. And ultimately, what that does is pisses everybody off. So I don't like how Trump is playing this, but we'll see where this goes. Maybe this ends up working, this bombing of Iran. Do I think it will? No. The past says that it won't work. But if it does work, I'll be the first one to come here and say, wow, the neocons were right this time. So instead of being 0 for 100, they are 1 for 101. They finally got one right, but I'm pretty skeptical. I don't think Iran will capitulate, not just because of themselves, but because China and Russia are worried that Iran capitulates. Then we go, oh, wow, we won here. Let's redouble our efforts on trying to weaken them. So this conflict is bigger than just them. They are representing an entire block of countries that are in conflict with the United States. And if one falls, it's bad for all of them. So I'm not too confident that Iran will back down and do what we want. But who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. Well, that is it for now. If you are new to my channel, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.